And in line with today's top story, we are asking you in our Twitter poll this morning, do you think heroes in Kenya receive the recognition and honor that they deserve? Do you think that Kenyan heroes receive the recognition and honor that they deserve? Do have this conversation with me on Twitter. You can even just start by telling me what you think really makes a hero. Who are some of the Kenyan heroes, in your opinion, that we think we should be celebrating? And are we doing enough? What can we do to be honoring these people that we consider to be Kenyan heroes? You can tweet me at Sharon_Momanyi or at KTN News using the hashtag News Center, and I shall be sampling your views as we continue with this conversation. And this conversation I want to now have with the former Nyeri MP Wanyiri Kihoro, who also has been really in Kenyan politics for a while, and you had interactions with the late Kenneth Matiba, just to talk about how we remember him, how you remember him, and that general conversation of how we treat and honor Kenyan heroes. But first, let's take a listen to a short soundbite here. And one of the key principles that the late Matiba stood for was democracy. He fought for a new Kenya. Let's listen to what he said about this.
We must have proper political situation. In other words, we must have freedom to elect our own people. Because I am now looking at Kihoro. I'm trying to get the people of Kihoro properly now living, understanding, and knowing what they can do to make themselves better.
I recovered from that sickness. If it had not been for you, I would have died a long time ago because I was very, very sick.
This idea of no opposition is the one that has brought and ruined the world on dictatorships. I will not support anything to do with that election. No. And I'm asking all the people of Kenya to do the same. I would like to tell you that I am going to stand as a candidate for the presidency of this country. I am committed to the welfare of you people of Kenya.
All right. Many thanks for joining us. We are joined in studio by Honorable Wanyiri Kihoro, the former Nyeri MP. Asante sana for joining us in studio this morning. And of course, we have Nyeri Town MP, and thank you very much for joining us. We have this tributes that continue to stream in for the late Kenneth Matiba. Talk to us about how you remember him. Describe the person that you know and your interactions that you had with him.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. And to go directly to the issue at hand in respect of Kenneth Matiba, that he has died. He has died a happy man on one side because of how his family has taken care of him, his 5 children, his wife Edith, and his bigger family. He's a satisfied man in that sense because for nearly 27 years, from 1990, he has lived when he suffered 2 almost simultaneous strokes in 1990 and 1991. And from that time, he was not functioning at his very best. And therefore, if you ask me how I would want to remember him, I would want to remember him in the last 27 years of how he has even stood up to being stricken and being, in many ways, immobilized, and how he has resisted a health aspect which people would feel overcome by. And in that sense, I would want to remember him because of that resistance, but that speaks of a man who, before that, was a very active person. And I think it is because of his initial physical and psychological and mental health. That is why he was able to also stand up against this stroke that he suffered and has lived with for the last 27 years. So the earlier life, he was a very active person. He is a person who became a permanent secretary in this country at age 31. And he is somebody who then left government service when he was 37. He resigned, not because he was unhappy with even the functions of government or the leadership of the country at that point, but he wanted to try something else that many people have always known Murang'a people being famous for, being very active as business-minded people. And in many ways, you can say he has mentored very many people in this country in terms of business, whether it is in agriculture, whether it is in horticulture, whether in hotel industry, in tourism. And he has also, as a sportsman, been a very active person. We remember him during the days of Kenya Breweries when it was doing sponsoring a lot of sport activities, especially football, the Kenya Football League. And Matiba was at the forefront of that because he was the chairman and the chief executive of Kenya Breweries. And himself, being a very active person, he scaled the heights. He went up to the top of Mount Kenya at 17,000 feet. He has been to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,000 feet. And in many ways, you can say he has been on the roof of Africa.
Right. And there's no doubt that he's marked a spot in Kenyan history. And the big conversation that is surrounding his death now is in how he was honored as a father of the second liberation of the country. And many saying that, as is really the norm, and we shall talk about that we tend to celebrate our heroes in their death. What could have been done differently, in your opinion?
That is the tragedy of this country, that you want to call people heroes and you want to pretend you are recognizing them only in death. I don't know why. I don't understand why people take exception of dynamic people, of people who are intelligent. And whether in America or Russia, China, they really glorify the original thinkers. And in this country, it's like when you are born that way, you are born to be condemned, especially by leadership. Whether it is the colonial leadership in this country for a period of 70 years, from 1895 up to 1963. You can see how they fought the Mau Mau, how they fought every nationalist thinking Kenyan and embraced the Home Guards. Look at now, from 1963 up to the present, how much they marginalize people who want to be national. That we start in 1863 when we are really nationalistic, we are all in KANU, the party of everybody, and how that is brought to become a property of a few individuals, and how by the time we come to what Matiba now stands for in 1990, Kenya had been reduced to a fiefdom of a few individuals, where everything from the central bank to the Ministry of Finance, they are property of individuals. They became millionaires overnight. So Matiba, from 1990, especially starting up to this second liberation of Kenya,
Right.
when it has been independent for a period of, at that point, it was independent for nearly 40 years, and you can see he stood up to it, and he said, this is not right. It's not KANU that becomes father and mother and everything else, that we no longer kind of think we want a multi-party system where we can be able to contribute to a better Kenya for us and also for our children.
Right. And let's just listen to a soundbite here that will also further guide our conversation by Sheikh Balala. Let's just take a listen to that.
There is a saying which says that ability wins us the appreciation of the true people and luck by other people. What Mr. Matiba or myself or Jaramogi or anybody, we do not to be appreciated by the government. Whether they appreciate our role or not, our contribution is for the destiny of this country and for the dignity of our people. Appreciation is like an insurance policy. We might not be appreciated today, but tomorrow we will be appreciated. Kenya has covered a lot of ground since '92, in spite of the tribulations of our figureheads, in spite of the tribulation and test of our leaders like Matiba, like Robert Ouko, indeed, he was one of them, like Jaramogi Odinga. So about appreciation of our heroes, it does not matter alone. What matters is the contribution of the people. Like now, Nelson Mandela has left the world. And day before yesterday, his wife, Winnie Mandela, left the world. But their appreciation is in the books. And the letters of their appreciation are written in gold. So we must not think that we become appreciated by a government or an elite of a bunch of criminals. That will not matter a lot. What matters is the people's appreciation. We will march to bury Mr. Matiba as a hero, but we will never forget him in our hearts. We will never forget him in our prayers, and we will never forget the focus and the vision that he shared with us.
Your reaction to that?
Comment about that.
Yes.
Because that one touches me. When it is Sheikh Khalid Balala, the one who was in 1992 exiled from Kenya, the one who lived like a wayward child in Germany for a long time, and I remember going to a demonstration at Kenya High Commission in 1993 to resist his being exiled. And now we have the issue of Miguna. We have had the issue of somebody like Salim Lone. Myself, I've lived as a non-Kenyan for a period of 5 years. As a Ugandan citizen, my name was Freddy Muhorozi from Shigezi district of Uganda. And that is very tragic. When I hear Balala, as vibrant as he was and as he is still mourning the failure of our country to take on board our people who want Kenya to be where it is and to have a country that embraces each one of us. Because no Kenyan is a marginalized Kenyan. No Kenyan should be a marginalized person in this country. So it is good that you have brought Balala, because that reminds me about 1993 in London when he was exiled at Njama. Aduka tunasema wakati huo CEC na Balala na CEC. When he went to the demonstration at 45 Portland Place in London to fight for his citizenship being restored. And thank you, Sheikh Balala.
Right, and just talking about that, and he says that even as we have this conversation about how to honor our heroes, that it really doesn't come down to the government of the day, really, and what we'd expect them to appreciate, that their appreciation itself is in written history, their contribution, for example, of the late Matiba to democracy. Do you think that is enough, that their history, what they contributed, is enough? Or even as Kenyans, not just the government, how do we honor these people?
I think part of the problem there is in this country is like what happened immediately after independence. The victor, in many ways, are the people who supported the British. It's not like what happened in Namibia in 1992, where we had a Kenyan contingent that goes to Namibia to celebrate their independence. A country led by SWAPO, Victoria's army of fighters and nationalists in Namibia. And they formed the core of the army and the core of the civil service, and in many ways, new institution. And also in Zimbabwe, the same thing happened, and the same thing happens in Angola. But when we come to Kenya in 1963, you find it is a negotiated independence where really the British are not vanquished by the Mau Mau, so they bring in this home guard kist that for a period now up to the present, you find it is hard over from the number 1 to number 2 to number 3 to number 4. And by the time they come to that point, because they have not really contributed in a genuine way to the liberation and to the government of the day, they have 5 years every time to fight against that. So that is what happened in 1963. That is now also what has happened about the second liberation. I would have been very happy to see Matiba as president of this country, because we have seen people can be unwell. I've seen presidents in the world, like in Indonesia. At one point, it had a president who was blind. I've seen a country like Algeria. The other day, we had the president of Algeria, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, going to open the metro in Algeria, and he was being wheeled along on a wheelchair. That is not more than a week ago. We saw it on Kenyan news. We have seen the president of Nigeria, Mahmoud Buhari, being unwell for a long time and the country for nearly 3 months without having a president. It would have been a very good day for this country if only we had Matiba or even Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Odinga only wanted to be president for a minute.
And we'll talk more about that because we want to talk about that post-second liberation politics and the late Matiba's political life after that, and what really you would feel contributed to what was not really a glorious political life after that. But right now we want to take a short break here on News Center, but don't go too far.